now seating table 120 with Jared Jeffries.
Welcome to the chaos.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to the chaos. What up, Danny?
What up, Mikey?
Oh, I'm very excited today.
I'm excited.
Yo, in the studio today, sitting in the hot seat, we have a very good friend of mine who is the life of the party that everybody can see from everywhere, also because he's 6'11". The dude is a monster. Love him to death. One of the greatest hearts in the world. With the number 11 pick in the 2002 NBA draft, my good friend, Mr. Jared Jeffries. What up, buddy?
What's up, buddy? How you guys doing, man? What's going on?
Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
So we appreciate having you on. So obviously this could be a little bit different because Jared's never been in nightlife, obviously, because we know what he's done, but he's been around the scene for a while. And when I say everybody in the scene knows him, like, yo, when we go out places, everybody knows him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm giving it a strong 20 years. Like, I look back on it now and I'm like, God dang, man, like, 20 years doing this.
Yes.
All right, so let's go back a little bit because a lot of people know who you are, but people who listen to the show who haven't been a fan of the NBA, give us a little bit of backstory, a little bit about where you're from, life up to now. Cliff notes, though, because I know you got a lot of shit in there.
Man, I got lucky, man. I two amazing parents that were very supportive of me for my basketball career, and grew up in Bloomington, Indiana. Fortunate enough to be able to go to Indiana University. Went there for 2 years. Got runner-up my sophomore year and went to the draft, picked number 11, got drafted by the Washington Wizards. Michael Jordan at the time was the president and owner of the team. Played there for 4 years, signed as a free agent in New York, played there for 6 years, had a short year stint in Houston in between, but got traded back to New York, and then spent my last year in Portland, left that, and walked right into a front office job in Denver. While I was doing that in Denver, I had a fishing show on Outdoor Channel because Mr. Kroenke, who owns the LA Rams, Denver Nuggets, Arsenal, Avalanche, Rapids, and everything in the world, he bought 2 outdoor networks and gave me a fishing show. Did that, moved out here, did video games for 2 years, worked for a company called Echo Fox, which was created by Rick Fox, was president of that company. And I actually did a podcast for a year that one of my buddies did. We called it Rookie Year, where we interviewed like everyone from Sue Bird to Dave Winfield about their rookie year.
Wow.
So I've had Cliff Notes, man, I had a very fun life,
Interesting.
man.
Those are probably some of the best Cliff Notes that we've had. I'm like, the one that kept popping up to me was a fishing show. I mean, Michael Jordan obviously was like a big one, but I'm like, the fishing show, I want to hear about this.
This man is a fucking avid fisher, but let's kind of bring it back. So, yo, growing up in Indiana, though, that was like a whole different experience than when you got to the NBA, right?
Yeah, it was one of the funniest things that kind of happened to me. And if you grow up in the country, things you don't really realize or think about are valet. So I get to Washington, D.C., get drafted. One of my buddies was in town, and he was like, meet me at Ruth Chris. This was also a different time to where you used to have the Garmin GPSs. You had to know the address to where you were going, and you put the address in, and you showed up. Everything was different. This was 2002. So I just got a brand new Denali, like 22-inch rims, at least like 20 TVs in that thing. I had TVs in the headrest, in the rearview mirror, and the steering wheel. The most dangerous thing you ever seen in your life. But I mean, TVs everywhere. So I mean, you couldn't tell me anything. I'm 20 years old. I've got this car. I got it all done.
Was that your first big purchase?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I got some for my parents, but yeah, like for myself, I'm gonna actually call something like yeah.
Right.
So pull up to the thing, and I'm like, when did you park? Like, kind of confused. This guy comes around. He goes, get your keys. I'm like, for what? He goes, valet. I'm like, all right, Jared. Like, what are you talking about? Like, So he was like, no, I'm going to park your car. I was like, no, that's cool. I'll park it. Just tell me where to go. Like, what are you talking about? So my friend came out laughing at me. But I mean, the list of those things, the transition from growing up, in a town of 45,000 people your whole life till you're 19 years old. And then instantly,
playing in front of 45,000
yeah,
people.
Here's, like my first cash advance was $250,000. You know what I mean? Like, I had never had more than $100 to my name. So it went from that to this to living in a city of millions, Washington, D.C., playing with Michael Jordan, being around that. So the educational curve that comes along with that is interesting.
What was it like with Jordan? Because like if you're the rookie, Jordan drafting you.
Well,
so
see,
you had to follow in line to what fucking Mike wanted, right?
Yeah, but see, I also, man, He's always been so good to me, man. He's always been so nice. I'm actually leaving Monday and going fishing with him for 5 days. We're gonna go to a fishing tournament. So I'm leaving Monday. We're gonna fish Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Ocean City, Maryland. So I'm flying out then. So like, kept a good relationship, and he was always nice to me, man. He had times that he would be hard and do whatever, but the biggest really adjustment was the fact that he didn't sleep. Like, never slept. He's one of those people that just never slept. And you hear the stuff about him going out, the gambling and all that. What you don't hear about is him being up every single morning at like 8 in the morning and having a thing called Breakfast Club. When we were on the road, we had to be in the weight room. We had to lift before shoot around. So we're in the weight room at like 7:45. No matter what time we went to bed, 7:45, we're in the weight room, we're lifting. We get to the gym early, we shoot. At home, he always got there early and shot and still worked out. He played 82 games at 40 years old, his last year in Washington. So all that other stuff, they joke and they want to talk about it, but just his determination and work ethic is something that I think you have to maximize.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that energy that he has at 40 years old, man. I'm 38. I'm like, I have like 5 different energy things right here that I'm sipping on, man.
It's crazy. Like,
right.
Absolutely crazy. And I think that was a good introduction, man, as far as one of the greatest things that he ever kind of told all of us was, you got to find something that as much effort as you put in gives it back to you. And he said basketball was that for him. And no matter how much effort he gave basketball, it always gave it back out. And it always stuck with me because a lot of times people will put effort into jobs or a career that there's no chance of that. You know what I mean? You can work as hard as you want to at that job, but you're only going to go to a certain level, and there's not going to be no fulfillment coming back out of it. And I think that the game of basketball, especially whatever you gave to it, it always gave back. And I mean, I could always rely on it to get a front office job, to have a coaching job if I chose to, played 11 years in the NBA. All those things was true with what he told me.
I mean, that's a great mentor to have because you could have easily, I don't know your story once you got in the NBA, but, I always hear that there's no playbook to fame.
No.
And like how to navigate that. So how did that work out for you?
Well, it's also, man, I think there comes a time, and I'm very lucky that I probably could have had a little bit better career as far as more points, had more success. But I think that a lot of people look around, especially in society that we're in today, and we always said, don't count somebody else's money or don't count somebody else's life. And I think that that's such a common thing. I think it always has been. I think it's amplified now because of social media. But in the NBA, it was. You would see guys in your draft class that were playing better than you or on a trajectory to have a better career, and it would hurt a lot of guys' careers because they would think that I have to go be better than him, or they compare this. Everyone's situation is different, and I think that's true of life, and I tell my kids that all the time. Don't worry about them. Worry about you. Like, worry about what you can do and what you are out there doing. And if you fall short, get up, man, and try again, and that's fine. But if you're worried about what this guy's doing, he averaged 20 now, you're trying to go catch him, maybe you're not capable of getting to that level. Maybe he's actually better than you now. Because when I was in high school and even in college, I was better than most of those guys. When we got to the NBA, there were some guys that I ended up being better than, and there were some guys that ended up being better than me. But I never tried to worry about that in the peripherals. I tried to just focus on what I was doing. And I'm not going to lie, man, I had the most fun of anybody in NBA history. I mean, I had an absolute blast. Like,
you always have an absolute, but this man has an absolute blast in anything that we do. We'll get to those stories later because they're fucking hysterical. But like, that has to be one of the reasons why, though, everybody loves you so much, because you're always just a happy-go-lucky guy no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, man, I come from a small town in Indiana. I don't know what you do there. Like, most of the factories are already shut down. You guess you work for the university if you stay in town. My little brother, has a great life. Him and his old lady just had their first kid. But I always wanted more. I always wanted to see the world. And basketball gave me that. So I always felt like I was working on house money. So I made it out of my hometown. I'll never forget, I was somewhere at a party in high school, and something happened, and I was mad at somebody on this, and I told him, I said, you all are gonna die in this town. I'm gonna be out of here in a year. Y'all gonna never see me again.
I did that too in New Orleans, but I was in the back of a cop car. And I was telling the cops, just wait till I'm famous. 25 years later.
I mean, but you knew too. You're like, yo, I'm going to the league. Like, I don't gotta worry about this shit.
I said, one more year, y'all never gonna see me again, man. So,
what was that like though, going from Indiana, from college into the NBA? Like, that had to be a jump.
It is. like I said, man, really the hardest thing is to get used to is not having a set group of friends. And I think that's the hardest adjustment. When you're in college, the camaraderie of your teammates, you have a set group of like 12 guys that are pretty much your friends. When I got to Washington, it was Kwame Brown, Brendan Haywood, and myself. And the next closest guys age-wise to us were like 4 and 5 years older than us. Like I was 20. I think Kwame was 20. I think Brendan was like 21 or 22. And the next group of guys was like 26, 27. And then we had other guys that were like in their 40s. So that was the hardest jump back then, was the NBA was older. Now it's different. Teams try to stay younger. They try to have a more like a friendly kind of atmosphere. It was cutthroat back then, man, because those veterans, they didn't just want to hand you anything because you were there to take their job. And now everyone's so young, they kind of grow up together. You know, there's enough money around the league. The league minimum now is like $3 million. The mid-levels, like I think over 10 this year. When I came in, the league minimum was just under $1 million. The mid-level was right like 4.5. So you figure in a 15, 16-year period, the money is tripled almost.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of you see more and more the security and the happiness of the athletes, because financially the NBA is in such a good spot.
Do you think now that athletes are getting so much that they don't work as hard?
I think that we're a culture that doesn't have to work hard, and so much is given, and the sense of entitlement is so much higher than what it was. I wasn't poor. Yes, I was. I was poor, but I didn't know I was poor. No idea. Like I had a basketball pair of shoes. I had a school pair of shoes that used to be my basketball shoes that so I'd play basketball in these shoes. And then when they got a little bit old, my parents would buy me a new basketball shoe, and that would be my wear-around shoes. And then like my playing the dirt shoes would be the shoes that I played in, back then. I had a pair of boots, and I had a pair of dress shoes. And that was all you needed. I had probably 4 pair of jeans, couple T-shirts. And now that sounds crazy, because kids now, like my kids now, my little one right here, she probably has 30 pair of shoes, and she'll grow out of them. My oldest, she's 12 years old. She's 5'11". She just grew. Her foot just grew again, so I bought her a bunch of size 11 and a half shoes for Christmas and her birthday in November. So she had probably like 20 pair of like Jordans, like ones, retros, all this stuff. Her foot just grew to a solid 13 in a women's shoe. She can't wear not one of them. Some of them still in the boxes. So now she has 4 pair of shoes, and she's like, I need more shoes. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but until you're done growing, I'm not doing this again.
Right.
So you're gonna, you're gonna have 4 or 5 pair of shoes.
Right.
Once you slow down, then we'll figure the rest of this out. But I'm not gonna keep
You
this.
had to start cutting the toe out.
Yeah, man.
He's outrageous.
It's nuts.
That's wild. All right, so now you leave Washington, you get to New York. First off, what was it like playing in the Mecca, man? Because I remember when you got traded, I was a huge Knicks fan growing up, and it's funny when my boys will see me, like me and him out and about, they'll be like, yo, you hanging out with Jared Jeffries? I'm like, yeah, he's like one of my fucking best friends now. They're like, wild. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I remember going to watch him, and he was like watching Knicks games.
Yeah.
But like, I always heard playing at the Mecca is like, the Garden is the Mecca. It's the coolest place to play. What was that like?
It's something cool, man, about there's something great about having fans. And the thing about New York that people talk about are the fans being tough on you and then booing you and doing that. But I've also been there when we're playing well and things go right, and there's nothing in the world like it, man. Like when things are going right and you're playing in New York, the energy of the crowd, I would much rather have 20,000 disgruntled fans than like 5,000 fans. Because back in the day, Atlanta had a tough fan base, New Orleans had a tough fan base, and you would go to these cities, and it's hard. It's hard to play 82 games and not, have fans, like real passionate fans. So I think that that's the big thing about New York, and I think that's why so many opposing players play so well there. And then because when they get there and the energy and the atmosphere, they're in New York and like the who's who of the world. Like I met The Rock. I was so pumped to meet The Rock one time. Bill Clinton. I mean, I was really good friends with like Spike, Mike Rappaport. Like all those guys were like regulars at our games. Like, and then just I lived on 22nd and 6th. So like after the games, like if we lost, I wouldn't do it because you'd probably get hit in the head with a brick. But if we won, I'd walk outside and like I'd walk home, man. Like I'd go across the street to one of the bars there, like around there, and like sit there with somebody and have a drink. And like I just love the city, man.
I've always had this like curiosity of what it was like for a player to be traded to another team and city. Like what goes through your head when something like that happens?
So for me, when I was being traded, the one time I got traded to Houston, so it's kind of weird. I got traded to Houston. I knew it wasn't a fit. They were doing it to dump salary to have a chance to sign LeBron or two max players that year. Eddie Curry was injured at the time, so they couldn't trade his contract. So Mike D'Antoni was my really good friend, still am. And Mike came to me and was like, "Look, I don't want to do it, but we got to trade you. But you have a trade kicker that's going to pay you an extra $1.3 million." And I was like, "Fine, trade me." Do what you got to do, coach.
I'll take one for the team.
If I have to.
Yeah.
It comes in one check, right? Okay, correct. One check. Trade me tomorrow then. So got traded. The only part that sucks is at the time I was married, my oldest was probably 4. Maybe not even that old. Might have been like 2 or 3. And that part sucks because for them, it's the uncertainty. It's the, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? How are we going to navigate this? That part of it does suck. Like being
school, friends, all that
stuff. Yeah,
stuff,
being
right?
traded mid-season. The other cool part about it is that they have to put you up in at least a 5-star hotel, I think for 45 days. And it has to be a suite. So it's awesome. So like you get there, you have like a maid and they just come clean all the time and like you still get the NBA is the greatest job in the world. And I think people talk about everything else. You get over $123 a day per diem just to eat. The team itself, there's food on the plane, there's food after practice, before practice, there's food in the mornings, there's food everywhere.
Wow.
But they still give you $123 to do that. You have to stay in a 5-star hotel if it's available in the city. So you stay in Ritz-Carlton's, Four Seasons, Montages, you name it, it's where you stay. You fly private, before and after every game. If you're gonna land at a certain time, you stay over in cities. So you can, if you're on like a West Coast trip, instead of flying to Sacramento, you stay over in LA after the game. You can just hang out here, get a good meal, go out. Even if your team's decent, you still get 3 months off. It's not like football where you have like voluntary workouts all summer. You can have a summer home and spend 3 months and go live in Florida, go live in Vegas, with your trainer. Our post-career package, if you play 10 years, they take care of you and your kids' health insurance for the rest of your lives. It's the greatest job in the world.
The league is amazing.
Oh, man, the NBA is
incredible.
Hands down the greatest job in the world.
Wow.
Like, not even close. Like, other leagues, all of our contracts are guaranteed. So, like, if you sign that contract, that's like when I signed my offer sheet, I was at the... It was a hotel right next to Bryant Park. It's still there.
Waldorf?
No, Waldorf's. It's the Bryant Park, but it used to be Coy. I actually signed my offer sheet in Coy, and I was so nervous because it was just an offer sheet, and they have 5 or 6 days to match. So now you have 5 or 6 days where you don't actually have a contract. You just have like a letter of intent. So I just sat in the hotel room for like the first 3 days. Like, probably shouldn't go outside, man. Like, bad thing might happen. If I get hit by a car in New York, we just sit here and make sure this whole thing goes smoothly.
Oh man.
So getting into the nightlife aspect, because this is what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
So now you're in New York.
Yeah.
After having this career with after being there with Michael Jordan, I'm sure he had a little bit of reins on you. So now it's a free for all. So what was that? Now this is your first introduction to this nightlife fucking world, and then being this NBA star at that point, like at 23. What was that like?
See, man, it was awesome, but it was also one of those things that I had more fun when I was in college. Like, I went to a real college town. So there wasn't much, like, besides the club aspect of it, there wasn't much that we we were crazy growing up. Like, because there's nothing else to do in Indiana. So, I mean, we would have some of the best parties you've ever seen in your life. I mean, we'd have field parties of 2,000 kids. Like,
that's what I'm about to ask, like the barn parties, stuff
man,
like that.
We crush it, man. And that's the thing is, I always have appreciated the energy of people, and as long as people are fun, and I think that's what I've always been like gravitated towards is like fun. I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want anybody to be crying. Like, let's just go out and have the most fun we could possibly have. And I've had some of the funniest nights ever. Like, woken up in other countries. Like,
wait, hold on.
16 hours away. Where are we? We're in Dubai. How did we get here?
Wait, hold on. Back that up. How does that happen?
I knew we were going. I thought they were joking though. Like, I didn't think anyone really had that kind of money. We were hanging out with these dudes, and they were like, "Let's go to Dubai," and I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "All right, go home." So ran home, got our passports, got to the airport. And so I'm back on the plane. I'll go to sleep. I wake up. I'm like, "Where are we?" Like, "We're in Dubai." I said, "No." I said, "We are in Dubai. It's amazing." So I mean, Vegas a couple times. This happened. Like, we've been in New York. And like, "Let's go to Vegas." I'm like, "Man, it's 2 a.m. They're like, "Let's just go." I'm like, "All right, come on." And get on a plane and fly to Vegas at 2 a.m. So I have, man.
We've done that here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah, from LA, but
it's only four. It's like four
it's a
and a
4
half
hours.
hours.
But this, I mean, it's 4.5 hours for him too. But we're talking about now. Oh, let's get on a jet and just fucking go to Vegas.
Yeah, no, we're getting in a car.
We're getting in a
drunk
car.
people driving to Vegas.
And the best is because like when you're in the plane, there's no turning around. But how many times have we been like, "Yo, let's go to Vegas"? We're all down, and then after an hour and a half of being in the car, everyone's fucked up. Your high's starting to go down. You're like, "Yo, man, this is a really bad idea. Do we really want to keep going?"
Right.
You hit like Bakersfield. You're like, "I don't want to do this anymore, man."
Especially if the sun starts coming up.
You're like, "Oh man."
No, just pull over and take it back. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, some really, really funny nights. There was one of my teammates, this one I was in New York, and he was on fire. I mean, he was crushing it. And some of the owners at Tao called, and they were like, "Yo, if you bring him by tonight, we'll comp all this stuff for you guys." And I was like, "Say no more." So I get him there, and they bring out this big presentation, and my teammate tries to like sit down and not embrace this. I mean, the whole club is looking at us. And I said, "You better get up." I said, "Because listen to me, this is how New York works. Next week, they're going to be booing you." I said, "Right now, this is your town." I said, "You better get up here and love it." And I mean, that was New York. It was so much fun. I hung out. The king of New York was Jeter. Like, if you were ever anywhere that he was, like, if you were just, like, next to him, then you were cool. Like, how you know Derek? I'm like, well, we go way back, man. You know this guy forever. No, I haven't, but I mean, still.
Yes.
I mean, but it was God. I mean,
Oh, at that time, yeah, the Yankees, right? It's like,
yeah, but
I
he
Jeter's
was
still God.
He's still God there, man. Like he handled everything right. But it is, man. It's funny to see. Like, New York's one of the places that, as far as nightlife, it's literally the same people. So I got there when I was 24, 25, and it's the same exact people. Like, if I go out, I'm like, we're old now, but I mean, we don't go out, but like, now instead of them being, hosts or whatever, now they're general managers and managers of like the venues and stuff like that. So that part of it's cool.
Was there ever times in New York? Because like New York is very hard to get into a lot of spots. Were there some nights where they're like, "Yo, man, you're not coming in tonight"?
1,000%.
Really, even as a New York Knick, that not letting you in the door.
100,000%. Now, also, this is because I never really dress right. I mean, I could have a onesie on. I could be in shorts in the wintertime. Never really like a rhyme or reason to what I'm wearing.
the Tableman.
Yeah.
He goes out.
Oh no, we'll go out with him. Like, what was his St. Patty's Day? He's like, "I'm getting us matching outfits." I'm like, "I'm not wearing matching outfits with you, bro." And he'll come out in like his fucking Jameson pajamas and a St. Patty's Day shirt that says I'm Irish with glasses and a hat and like all this shit, and he just doesn't care.
I'm coming out with y'all next time,
I was
dude.
just gonna say I love everything.
Oh, bro, we go out, and he's like, but the thing is, like, it's funny when me and him go out, like, he knows everybody, and now I know everybody, so we'll show up somewhere, just the two of us, and they'll look at us, and we won't be wearing anything right. We'll be not in the proper of states, and we're just like, go ahead.
Go ahead. Idiots. I'm like, whatever.
Yo, we ordered pizza in the club.
He wrote what?
No, it was his girlfriend's birthday, and it was like right after the pandemic. It was the first night out, so he's like, "Yo, let's go here." I'm like, "All right, cool, let's go."
Yeah.
We get there, we're like, "Yo, we're hungry." We left the club, went to Domino's and 7-Eleven, bought cigarettes, pizza, our own drinks and chips, and we just walked back in the club with pizza, and everyone's staring at us like.
We're like, we're fine.
Yeah,
fine.
just leave us
That's
alone.
amazing.
Bro, the
Everything's
GM
fine.
came, walked by, and just shook his head, and everyone's like, only the two of you can get away with this. We're like, we know. We know.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, in New York, there were a few spots, like, but I don't have that gene to, like, get mad or, like, do anything. Walk up and they're like, not tonight. I'm like, all right. Like, I'll be darned if I ever try to argue you to spend my money. Like, no, let me in so I can go buy a table. Like, no, I'm cool, man. Like, I probably won't come back for a week now. If I do come back, I'm going to sit at the bar because you would act like this, I'll be just as petty as you are.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I've had that, man. Like, and I get it. They're running the business, but it's also my decision too. Like, I don't have, this is a big city. A lot of people are there. So that's why I've always kind of operated, man. And you'd be surprised if you do that stuff. Usually it works out in your favor instead of being like, and you don't know what those guys, like, they work for somebody too. So go ahead.
It's crazy. We talk about nightlife politics, but like, they always want people in the club that are noticeable. So we're talking about one of the players for the Knicks, and they're still not going to. It's just wild to me that they wouldn't do that. But that's the political bullshit that really fucking happens in this industry.
And we'll talk about it too. Like, for a long time, man, at like a lot of the exclusive clubs around the country, dress code was just selective racism. Like, it was all it was, oh, you got the wrong, like, I've been in Vegas before, one of the places it was one of the first, like, mega clubs in Vegas that was just going off, and I was with a max player, like a dude that making like $25 million a year. And I knew how they act, so I had like a polo shirt on, like dress shoes, looked like a clown, big wide jeans, it's awful. And he had on like a similar outfit and had on like Gucci. This was like Gucci was coming out with like the tennis shoe kind of things, but they were like $2 or $3 grand for those shoes. And they were like, no, he can't get in. And I'm like, the table's under his name, like he's paying. So if you don't let him in, I'm not paying because I'm not paying for all these people. So you got to figure this out. But it was, for a long time, the collar shirts, the shoes, it was just the club's way of filtering out who they let in. You know what I mean? Once people started getting called out on that, and once I think social media took over, where you could show that, all right, he got the same outfit I got on. Why is he getting in, and why am I not getting in? What's this reason? I think it really curved that, and you see that now. Where like you can pretty much wear whatever you want to when you go out, which you should be able to. Like, so I got to have on $1,000 suit to get into here. What if I can't afford that suit? So I can't come here. Like, that's not right. Like, and I would never go to places like that. Like, I love being around just like energetic, fun people.
Right. Yeah, I ran into that in New Orleans a few times with everybody had to wear dress shoes, like black dress shoes. I'm like, it doesn't go with my outfit. Can't wear that. I remember when I first went back home. I'm from New Orleans. Yeah. And I first went back and I had like my whole LA style down. I had like, it's when the Ed Hardys came. Yeah, everybody was wearing Ed Hardy shoes. They were like, you can't come in with those Converse. I'm like, these are Ed Hardys. Yeah. You know, like these cost so. You know, I was being a bitch at the door, but I just couldn't understand why I had to look like everyone else. And you're right. It's like they selected who they wanted to be.
It was their way of being able to control. And I get it, man. Like, you want to be able to control your crowd, but there's got to be a better way. And I would much rather have somebody tell me that, like in New York, they do it. Not tonight, man. Hey, man, I respect that, man. Like, not tonight. Like, but don't sit here and make me jump through hoops, because even some of the places, what's funny is in Washington, D.C., it was a big thing where the guys used to run that. They would have a rack of, like, remember the old Foot Locker, how you could buy like those solid color like collared shirts. You remember those?
The 2 for $20.
Yeah, whatever.
2 for $25, yeah.
2 for $20. They would have a rack of them out there and be selling them things for like $100 a piece. Because dudes would come up in t-shirts and they'd be like, gotta have a collar on it. And they'd be like, come on. They'd be like, we got shirts over here you can buy for $100. And dudes they'd be so pressed. I'm like, man, I'm not buying a white polo shirt for that much. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and everything just looked corny as hell because, like you said, when you used to go out, you have to wear those black outdoor shoes. You have to wear the bulky jeans because the skinny jeans weren't a thing back then. Yep. Everyone had to wear some sort of collar shirt, and a lot of times it wasn't even a polo. It had to be a button down.
Correct.
So every dude looks the same. We all look like fucking tool bags.
Yeah.
Like, But then it was funny because once I started getting into nightlife, because back in New York, I was in the nightlife scene, so you could do whatever you want if you knew everybody. Politics. So once I started going to clubs wearing sneakers and hats, everyone's looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? And then people thought I was important. I really wasn't. I'm not important at all. But like everybody thinks so because that's when it started to break the trend.
That's funny. That's also the thing too. That's really what really pushed the trend quicker with what you just said. The dude that was able to get in a hat and a t-shirt, somebody just swore that guy was like the person, even though no one knew who he was. And then so people started actually, it turned the tide of even like bottle service, because somebody would get a table and their whole thing would be like, well, no dress code for me. Like now people say, I don't want a minimum. They would be like, I don't want a dress code. And it was a big thing that like, they would let you in. They were like, all right, you're good, but your boys got to do that. And then it kept getting more and more like, all right, look, we'll do this, but we're all going to dress like this. And and the clubs were making so much money because they were allowing these guys to dress how they wanted to.
Yeah. I wanted, because you mentioned bottle service. Do you remember the transition of when clubs like started doing heavily leaning towards bottle service? Because I remember when I started in the club, it was mostly bar service. People would go out to dance.
Yep.
And then it became more focused on bottle service. So what was that like?
2002, when I came in, bottle service was a big thing for NBA players just to be away from everybody else. So we all had security guards, and your security guard would go in. You'd be out in the car. He would go in. They would have a section for you with like a table or like your area, and you would come in, and the club would actually give you bottles of alcohol. And this went on for a long time. The transition, I'm not gonna lie, the transition to where you had minimums and bottles started when Jolo came on the scene. When Jolo came on the scene, no one ever thought that people would buy and spend that kind of money on bottles. And they were like, hold on. Here's a guy that's spending $50,000, $60,000. But at the time, the only bottles you could buy were Hennessy, Patron, Grey Goose, Moet, Cristal.
Right.
That was the champagne list in 99.9% of clubs.
I remember.
Yeah. And this guy would come in, and like a bottle of Patron was like $150, $200 max. Hennessy was actually one of the highest priced bottles, and the Magnum Grey Goose was $500. The small one was like $150 or whatever it was. And here's a guy that would come in and buy every bottle of alcohol that they had in the club. And they were like, wow. And then you started getting a lot more of, the Chinese gamblers that were coming in and doing it. And he almost single-handedly transitioned into what we see now. Single-handedly.
Wow. Jolo was the first whale.
Yeah.
Jolo was the first whale. I remember being in Vegas one time, and he showed up with him, DiCaprio, and like 20 girls. And I remember I'm pretty sure it was Encore. He paid $1.1 million to have Encore kick everybody out of the club besides him, Leo, the cocktail waitresses, and his girl, so him and Leo could just do karaoke in Encore.
Also, Joe's actually made an appearance in the podcast Stories.
Yes.
Prior to what you...
Yeah, we've talked about him before because he was and I remember meeting him a few times, and he's something happened with him because his money was not like real.
No, it wasn't real, but I mean like just nobody was as creative as he was. Remember that song Gundam Style?
Yeah.
Psy.
Yeah,
Him and Psy were like best friends. We're at Marquee in Vegas, and Psy literally sang Gundam Style for like an hour, and it was so much fun. I mean, it was great because Joe would buy 2 bottles of vodka, a bottle of Patron, and 2 bottles of Cristal for every single table in the club. So like if you had a table, so he was such a magnet anywhere that he went, you would be somewhere in the city where he was and they'd be like, Jolo's going here. And bro, people would pick up and leave and go to that club just because they knew that, even if it was gonna cost you $5,000, he was gonna give out another $10,000. And the party was gonna go until 9:00 in the morning. Crazy.
That is crazy.
Crazy. You had some of the Saudis that came in, then they started doing the same thing, and they normalized, people spending that kind of money. They really did. Like they normalized it.
It's crazy that this is where we've kind of taken this nightlife shit too. That it's become a thing that now everybody in the entertainment world, from athletes, celebrities, it's a big thing. And us living in LA, that's all we see. And like now you go wherever those athletes and those celebrities are going. What have you seen like kids in the league come up and like all of a sudden they have all this money and now they get introduced to this nightlife scene and it kind of hurts their career in a sense because now they're just they're not worried about the game so much. They're worried about going out and partying afterwards, looking cool, what girls they're picking up and shit.
You know
like.
what's funny that you say that? The league has had a huge transition. Guys don't go out anymore. I will say this, as fast as the world went like this, the trajectory of the world in nightlife and bottle service, camera phones ruined it just as fast.
Right.
Guys don't go out, guys don't dance because they're gonna be somebody gonna take a video of them. And it's just, and the video is gonna get back to the team. It's gonna get back to if they have a wife or a girlfriend that somewhere they shouldn't be. Like most of the guys now in the league, 99% of them are amazing kids. Like top shelf kids, man, because they've been under a microscope since they were 17 years old. And like we used to play cards on the plane and gamble. Nobody does that anymore. Everybody plays video games or sleeps or like, gets treatment, works on their body. We always went to dinner together as a team. We would we would gamble in the rooms and stuff like that. All these guys now, man, they're in bed. They take care of their bodies. They really do, man. Like camera phones have been a gift and been good for the league in that regard. Like there's probably a handful of guys now that actually go out, like NBA players that actually go out.
That's kind of because that's really cool because we look at social media pretty much killing the industry, but it's cool to hear like that perspective of it that has actually had a positive influence on a lot of people in that scenario to not put them in these positions. Because I'm sure back in the day, people would just go off and go fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there would be a report that somebody did this. But that's a report. If somebody calling trying to snitch, and then they ask you about it, like, I didn't do that. Any more questions? Like, okay, no. But like, there was no proof. Like, There was nothing. There was no way to, unless there was like, that's when like, paparazzi were massive back then. But they had to have a flash on the camera and be like that, and your security come on, punch me in the face and break their camera. Like was the difference. Now, like these cell phones, even now, like they take such good like pictures in the dark and stuff like that. Like guys won't. There's no reason to risk it, man.
Yeah, there's no risk. Yeah.
And people are, bro. I've been out with you and like stood in front of people just trying to take your fucking picture. Like I can only imagine what it would be like. Somebody who's like, think about if LeBron was out now. People are probably gonna be in his face with a fucking phone all day. Like that's gotta be annoying.
Well, and those guys can go out, but it's what you talked about. It's such a controlled environment. It's not really that fun. Like if I ever got to the point to where I was that famous, to where I had to go out with like 3 security guards and I had to sit at a table like by myself and like couldn't really dance or like do anything, I probably wouldn't go out, man. Like that's no fun. Like the whole point is to be an absolute crazy person and like dance around and laugh and like run around the club and like that's the whole point. Like if you can't do those things, why am I here?
People in your group have to sign NDAs and stuff to hang out with you.
Exactly. Take people's phones at the door and like all that. Like it just creates an era of weirdness that's I don't think is a genuine fun.
Makes you uncomfortable. Yeah. Like you can't let loose.
Yeah, and it's I've never had that level of stardom, but people are like oh, I met so and so one time. He's a jerk, or he's he's mean, or he's this. Like man, imagine going out and every single time you go out, you have to have your head on a swivel, or you have to sign an autograph, or you have to say no to an autograph, or you have to have somebody, hey, not right now. Like you can never just go out and just go to the grocery store. Like that's a real thing, man, and it's a level of frustration that I think people don't realize. And if they do go out and if they do try to do these things, if they're not like receptive and nice to people, then it's on TMZ or it's on one of these things that, that this person did this, and you don't know if that person's a cancer survivor, but the headline the next morning is going to read, player X tells cancer survivor, get the F away from me. Listen, man, I said that, but like everyone's bothering me. He touched me. That's what I said.
Right.
But
you're a human being.
Human being.
Yeah.
But you don't get that whole, you're not allowed to be a human being because you have that level of fame and you're supposed to act like a certain way. It's fucked up.
Well, and I think that's the one thing that you kind of see now, that they're taking that back, because mentally it wears on you so much too. Like imagine, the other day, the biggest loss probably of Chris Paul's life in basketball, when they lost Game 5. And one of the reporters asked Devin Booker, "Do you feel bad for Chris?" Like right in front of Chris, like, "What are you doing, man?" Like, if a player made a disrespectful remark to a reporter, the player gets fined $50,000. But reporters can throw disrespectful things at you. They can skew your words. They can do all these things to you with no consequence or repercussion against them. And I think you're going to see more and more players push back, like not do interviews, do what Kyrie did this year. Said, "I won't do it. Find me, do whatever you want. This is for me." Just so that after I just had a big loss or a big win, I can't celebrate and there's a camera in my face 30 minutes later. You have to do it because it drives the NBA revenue, but there has to be a medium. You know what I mean? There has to be a middle ground that you reach with these guys because they can't, like, it takes a special person not to get worn down mentally from that. Like a really special person.
Well, that's even past the NBA because what's her name?
Simone Biles today?
No, not even Simone Biles. The tennis player.
Oh, yeah.
Why am I blanking on her name? Yeah, Osaka.
Yeah.
Naomi Osaka. Where it's
Yeah.
like she's like, yo, mentally I can't do this, and she's getting berated by the league. And it's like, yo, why is the tennis association? That's your star player. Why are you not coming to her aid? Like you said, she's a human being.
Because
she deals with shit.
It's such a slippery slope because the money that's involved with these media outlets, and let's be honest, man, like, in the end of the day, all these things are driven by money. So if you're not in a position to where your best players are available to media, and it's clickbait, like, you need her to do that, and you even have to not stand by her so that no one probably even knows anyone from the tennis association. Like, I don't know the guy's name, but I guarantee you if you knew tennis or you, like, gradually, now you know this guy because you're like, oh, I can't believe, you know, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so would treat Naomi like this. So now everything now is about a media circus and media storm that's very calculated. Like this, don't think for a second that all this stuff isn't talked about in the room. Like the media fallout is going to be this, it's going to last for this long. It'll be no big deal.
Yeah, because if one network doesn't do it, the other one's gonna pick it up right away.
Correct. Yeah.
You can't stop all of them from to respect people's mental health. But I think I don't know, man. Hopefully, it goes in a better direction because I mean, Simone Biles, like she said she's not gonna compete.
Well, she's not. Did she tap out totally for the thing? She's tapped out of the team competition.
She's the team, not the.
Yeah, but she still might do the individual competitions this week. But I mean, listen. That's the slippery slope with everything. And I mean, me and Mike will talk about it. If everybody that plays sports has a level of anxiety, it's just, can you control it? Like when you go out there and you've missed 4 shots in a row and you know the other team is saying let you shoot, or your home fans are kind of booing you, or you hear whispers, that's anxiety. These star great players, the Michael Jordans, the Kobes, they can compartmentalize how they feel, they can relax, and they can go do it. Like myself, I wasn't that good at it. Like if shit got bad and whatever, I'll be nervous as a motherfucker, and the next shot come around to me, I'll be like, oh, pass the ball again. Like, like you know what I'm saying? And that's what I tell people all the time. And you know, when I was director of personnel with the Nuggets, I used to work with a lot of players and help them find sports psychologists and stuff like that. And I would try to tell them, you're not alone in this, man. Like, every single player goes through anxiety, confidence issues. And now they're kind of addressing it but it's also a slippery slope because you don't want all of these players having that as a crutch also. Like, they can already say, my back hurts, my knee hurts, and then we're already resting guys, not playing back-to-backs. You have to hold these guys accountable to be able to play a certain number of games. So, like, and there's no way to test a true test of mental health. Like if somebody goes to you like, yo, I'm really messed up right now, you have to take their word for it. And you can't speak out against it. You can't say, come on, man, fight it off. Like, can't say that. Like that. Right. You know what I mean? So it's, where do you go with this? And I think it'd be interesting to see in sports how they navigate this over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think that's a lot of the Simone Biles pushback is everyone's like, oh, so for one time you weren't perfect. So now is this a cop-out? But it's like you got to take the other perspective of that too. It's like, okay, for the first time ever, she wasn't perfect. That probably mentally is weighing on her a shitload because she doesn't know what it's like to be in this scenario. So, of course, all that anxiety is going to rise to the surface that she doesn't know how to deal with. But it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like, how much are you going to be able to tell? Is this a cop-out or is it not? And that's going to cause a huge – and that's also what makes the stigma of it so much worse.
It makes – well, I mean, it's like when you have a knee injury, okay? you can go in, you get an MRI. They have hundreds of years of information that say if your knee looks like this and this is what it is and your pain is this, I can give you this medicine, you can play a basketball game. You have a grade 2 sprain. A grade 2 sprain is going to take you 2 weeks. We're going to rehab this. We're going to get it back. There hasn't been enough litmus tests for athletes through this mental health. How are you going to navigate it? You know, like, because it would just take, and knock on wood, it would never happen. It would just take one situation where somebody pushes a player too hard, and heaven forbid, say he does something stupid, like the Richard Sherman thing recently. Like, that guy, that doesn't just happen out of thin air, man. Like, there had to be indicators that somebody should have helped that guy, man. Like, and he'll get the help he needs, but if you go off the deep end, if you're that level of person, you're, you know, a good guy, all these endorsements, because everywhere now does a huge extensive background. You know, their HR department, before they endorse you, if there's anything in your past, they're not going to pick you up because they don't want the fallout. So he passed all these tests, Old Spice, Apple computers, and all this stuff. And then one night that happens, there's, you know, forever that was under the rug, man. Push through, man. You're fine, man. Get through it. Now the league has to be like, well, we know he did have some signs of it, or this, or make him go away. That's disappointing that happens because people don't address it at the time.
And there's the other side of the coin where the person seems perfect, and on inside they're crazy as fuck.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, but that's the whole point, is that maybe they are, but I guarantee you, if you go back, I'll never forget, man. There was a buddy of mine we used to run around with, and I get a phone call, man. He beat the crap out of somebody, almost killed him. And I wasn't around him a whole lot. But then I was talking to friends of ours. I'm like, dang, man, I can't believe he did that, man. They go, yeah, I saw that one coming. Well, wait. He goes, yeah, he's been having a tough time. I'm like, well, did you want to tell us?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I almost killed this dude, man. Like, I mean, like to the point where, like, you know, like a movie where he's hitting him. Somebody tried to grab and get him off. He beat that guy, just kept, I mean, beat the crap out of this guy. I'm like, you knew he was that unstable? Like, why are we hanging out with him? Like that's not good.
taking time on you didn't even know it.
Exactly. So
Right.
I think that's the other thing, man, is hopefully that ends up being something for athletes, man, that they can get. Because also, too, man, for a lot of guys, like post-career, like their depression is so real. Like, you walk away from the game, and now you got a wife you don't know, kids you really don't know, and there's nothing to do all day.
Right. I can't even imagine, because like I didn't even get to the pro level, but I miss still playing high school soccer when I was the captain of the soccer team.
Yeah.
And every time I see a game, I'm like, man, I know I could have, if I would have just had the right path.
Yeah.
I miss it. I can't imagine if that's your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then, like, if you're a star athlete too, and you know everywhere you go, everybody is calling your name, you're getting praise left and right. Career's over, and now it's silent. You're not used to that.
No.
That could drive you nuts.
No, I'm gonna tell you the worst part about retiring: commercial airlines. I mean, yeah, commercial airlines. I mean, in the summertime, I would always fly a little bit, but it like wasn't that bad. But then, like when you're in the league, you travel 3 nights a week around the whole country, but you fly private. So when I was like that, and I went somewhere and they're like, your flight's canceled. I'm like, well, what time does the next one leave? And they're like, tomorrow. I'm like, well, how do we do this? Like, where do we go now? Like, you gotta go to a hotel. Are you getting it for me? Like, no, sir, you gotta book it yourself.
Yeah.
Well, where's the player development manager? Is she gonna come help us do this, or because it's like life adjustments you have to have.
You're back in the valet scenario.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Different, you know.
Yeah.
Also, you're 6'11", so I can only imagine what it's like for you sitting on a plane.
Well, no, that's what I tell people all the time. It's the best part is people are like, oh, just fly first class. I'm like, get that. They get the lay down seats. I'm like, you guys are sitting lay down seats. Lay down seats are only good up to 6'6". So if I lay the seat down, only thing I can do is sit like this.
I wish people could see
what he looking like right now with his feet up but like laid back.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is dope. I just paid $15,000 for this seat. It's so cool, man. And then I can't see the TV through my knees. So then I have to like put my knees to the side like this to watch the TV. And I'm like, I'm just gonna sit up. Then I just sit up like this. So I'm like, it doesn't matter, man. Like,
Bro, you couldn't even get into a Spirit airplane.
No. So yeah. So when I lived in Denver, I had to make a quick trip to Vegas, and the Nuggets were paying for it. So I was like, hey, just give me the next flight you can get me on. So our travel agent for the team booked me on Frontier. I'd never flown Frontier before. I got on the plane.
worst.
I got on the plane and I physically couldn't fit in the seats. So I said, explain this to me, ma'am. What do you want me to do? Well, you got to buy first class. I said, I have no problem with that. I said, but like, I'm tall, but this is the only airline that I've been on Air Serbia, okay? Ever been on Air Serbia? It's not a great. They use like old like Russian like warplane. We're like coming in, it's dangerous. So I fit on those planes.
You get the parachute out of that.
Oh man, I was like, I looked up the name. It was Air Serbia. Looked at the name, and I couldn't read the name. I was like, is this like Boeing or Airbus? And they were like Russian. I'm like, whew. So no Boeing or Airbus. We're gonna fly this one. I was like, there are more seatbelts I can put on.
Yeah.
They came by. They had this is years ago. Like this, it's better now. But the in-flight meal, and I'm not lying, bro. It was on a paper plate with saran wrap on it. I was like, oh, when in Serbia.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the worst part about retirement was 100% commercial flights, because it took me a while to like. Your baby's so much. I mean, if you want, I went everywhere. If I wanted tickets to anything, and I wasn't a high-level player, but if you wanted tickets to the Met Gala, if you wanted to go to the ESPYs, if you wanted to go anywhere, you were one phone call away or two phone calls away max from somebody being like, yeah, I got him, no big deal. And then when you retire, you can still do it, but they're like, that'll be $5,000. Like, how much? No, I don't want to go that bad. No. Because when you're making all the money as a player, everything's free. They're like, here you go, sir. Here, you do this, because they have the hopes that you're going to invest in a deal they have, or they have hopes that like they might handle your money at some time, or be your lawyer, or get tickets to a game, or do whatever. When you're retired, they know you still have a little bit of money, so they're always like, you got to pay this time, sir. I'm like, well, I don't want to go that bad then. Like,
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So, it was awesome, man.
That's fucking hysterical. Yo, so let's talk about some of these nightlife stories you got, because I've been out and about with you in some in some great places, but you got some funny fucking tales.
I also wanted to know, in the different leagues, who parties the best? Is it NBA, NFL?
Yeah, the NHL guys are wild.
Yeah, but see, the NHL guys are fun because literally nobody know NHL, and a lot of the baseball players, no one knows them, and they're so little that like those guys are great, and they'll go to a bar and they'll just tear that bar to pieces, and they're fun, no drama, no fights. Football players, at some point their shirt's gonna come off, and it's gonna be a battle royale. It's gonna be tail breaking bottles, suplex, and I'm thinking they're fighting, and then they're laughing, all hugging each other. I'm like, you guys gotta turn this switch off a little bit, man. Like every once in a while, go have fun, just turn it off. Like,
Bro, you just reminded me of the story. I was walking through Greystone. I was working, and Rampage Jackson was there. And I'm going through this like dark hallway by myself full of bus tub, and I see this dude with his shirt off and a chain link fence.
Yep.
The chain link chain that he wears.
Yeah.
Just grilling me like, I'm gonna die. Yeah. You know, like that dude's intimidating.
No, it's wild. And like I said, and football players too, they get this look behind their eyes that look at nothingness. But like, and it's like, oh, is anybody behind there? Oh no, I hope you reach that level. Right. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and head over here, man. Yeah. You guys have fun tonight. Be careful, okay? Like, no, basketball, it's just different. Like I said, we always went out like as a group. I'm telling you what's funny, man, is before camera phones, they used to like your hotel lobby. So when everybody just had cell phones, this is probably 2002 to 2008 or 9, around there. And
you had that Motorola Razr, huh?
Every city you went to, you had parties. So let's say that we were going to Indianapolis. I would throw a party in Indianapolis, and the guys wanted to go could all come, because you would get to Indianapolis on like a Wednesday or Thursday night. There was nowhere to go. So I would throw a party on Thursday night, and that was like how everybody knew. But then people didn't know how to get a hold of you, like maybe like cousins or whatever didn't have your number anymore, like something like this. So when you checked into a hotel, the hotel lobby bar would be rocking, because that was everybody would just know that you were, because you sit at the same hotels, and they would know that you were going to go to that hotel, so they would just sit at the hotel and wait for you till you got there.
Yes.
So then you walk by and they're like, Jared, you're like, oh my God. Oh, what's up, Clarence? Yeah, I've been calling you. You have my new number? They'll call it, ring. I'm like, oh God, you're right. Like, sees it. That guy's crazy. So I mean, hearing that, it was so funny. So that was how it used to be. So you literally had paper flyers, and they would spread them out all over the city, and then people would like try to find you, and then you would go to whatever like club or bar in that town. What's the point? Was throwing your event that night.
Did you or anyone you hung out with ever have to do like disguises or something to go out?
There was one guy. I was with that I can't say his name. You guys would know him, but he had a body double. So we were in New York, and we get to Gramercy Tavern. I sit at the table and I turn. I'm like, the fuck? I said, who are you? And then my phone rings, and I'm like, yo. He's like, yo, we're in the back. Just walk back here in like a little while. I said, what in the world, man? So they had a body double, man. It was wild. Like, because he had his back to the crowd. He was there.
He was a decoy, right?
Yeah, he was a decoy, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, body double.
When you get to,
did you think you were with your friend or?
No, I got there. They were like, yo, we're here. So like, there were like a couple people at the table that I knew at this table.
Yeah.
So when I walked in and sat down next to him, I'm thinking they're like, we're gonna kick it and hang out. I turned, man, what? He was like, yeah, they've been all over me, this, and this. So because then we slept out the back, and this guy went out the front with like a hood on and stuff like that. So like they kind of followed him, and then we ended up going out like afterwards. But he did that. I was around Prince one time, rest his soul. Prince did that. He sent a body double in one time. It was great. It was remember Eldridge, that real small club was on the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
The Matt Levine owned for a while. He that was great. We were in there one day. I'm like, who is that? I'm like, it's just what he does.
Prince is awesome, man.
Awesome.
We had him at Sayers Club. I was bartending, and then the crowd went quiet, and all you just heard like this bass going off. And he used to like throw in because you couldn't see, like everybody's standing up.
Yeah.
And then he got carried back to his table.
Yeah.
Just like plays down.
Best.
The best, man.
That kind of stuff, man. Like, I really think that there's a level of nightlife that you'll never get back. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely
true.
the small, like, same thing, man. When, I forget the name of the bar or club that it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. It was summertime, and I was in New York. I hadn't gone down to Florida yet. And I'm like laying in bed, sleep. All of a sudden, I get a phone call. They were like, yo, Prince is going to perform in 20 minutes. Say no more, I'm on the way. Like, hopped out of bed. When I got a taxi, man, I like ran. Like, I just think that those things be so hard because especially now, man, with like, we always talk about it with cell phones. Those artists they want to do that kind of stuff, but then like people will go and just videotape it. So then now it's the record labels for like, I got a couple of music friends out here that are in like EDM, and like he's always shook at performing at his house because he wants to like sample like some of his new music with us. But if somebody records it, then the record label can like find him and his bandmates like all this money. And it's like to have to worry about all of that sounds awful. Like it's your music and people to listen to it, but you gotta make sure no one has their cell phone so that because then if they release it now, it could cost you millions of dollars.
I remember the first time I went to a show and they're like, we got to take your phone. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow, why? And then after they explain it, I'm like, okay. I mean, every Chappelle show I've ever been to now, that's what they do. They
Yeah.
always take your phone. They put in that little, like, there's now a service that comes in, takes your phone, they lock it, and you give it in, or they let you hold on to it, but you can't get it unlocked until after the show is over.
Yeah, they put it in that bag.
Yep.
They put it in that bag. Yeah. So like you can have your phone, but it's in that bag. So when you're going out, you got to do the little like and the thing comes undone. But that's the thing is, those guys couldn't do new material. Like so they would have to do all their new material in front of clubs, like small little intimate. Like I've been in New York a bunch of times. When Day has gone on here, San Francisco, but it's a different joke system when you're doing crowds, of 10,000 people as opposed to a intimate club setting. So like those guys have to get used to, joke delivery for a wide, more diverse crowd. Before, people going to a comedy club are going there to laugh. Like if people are going to a show, they're going to see Dave Chappelle. So if he's not funny, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
And he's got no way to test out his material. It's just like the way they used to do it, because now all his material is going to be online before he even films the special.
How Dave lives in the middle of nowhere now, right? Doesn't he live
Always
in the
has.
country?
Always has.
He lives in Ohio.
Ohio, yeah, always has lived out there. Like he grew up there.
Oh, okay.
Grew up there, yeah. Like that's what I think too. So many people like cities are just becoming so dangerous. That's even like another thing too. I swear, I used to go out all the time, like, and I would never had any fear of any danger. Now, like sometimes I walk in somewhere and I look at the crowd, I'm like, nah, not tonight, man. Like,
Not today.
No. Like, walk in somewhere, I'm like, he looks angry. He looks angry too. Like, and they've gone away from. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I think is some level of discrimination, like racism, but they would make, if it's 2 guys, you had to come with like 10 girls. They've gone away from that. I'm trying to think where I was recently, and I saw a table of like 15 dudes. I'm like, that can't be fun. I wouldn't even go out. Like, who else coming? Oh, Eddie and his little brother and 4 of his friends, and then Jim and, 8 guys over. So right now we have 14. I'm not going. I'm just going to go sit at the bar by myself. Like, it can't be. There's no way it's going to end well. One of the 14 guys is going to get in a fight, then we all got to fight. Like,
Right.
So they got to figure that part out. Like, you can't go there with 14 guys.
Oh man, that's. I mean, money talks now.
Money talks now.
Yeah.
Like they don't ask them. They don't care. They say, how many are you with? I'm with 8. All right, the men's 7, like 6K. All right, we'll do it. Like, you guys are gonna spend $6,000 for 8 of you and not 1 girl.
Right.
Because they think they're going to pick. Well, this is why promoters have gotten so, because the promoters are supposed to bring the girls that are now supposed to fill those
Correct.
tables, but promoters now are too cool and they're like, my girls want to stay with me. So it's like, so you're drinking for free.
Yeah.
These guys are spending money and not going to overspend because there's no girls at their fucking tables.
Yeah.
And it's a lose-lose for everybody in the club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a win for them.
I mean, kind of though, but like even them, like that can't be fun. Like now you're sitting there with like tables of like a pack of hyenas, like
Right.
they're like come up here and say hi to her, and they're like she got to go through like a gauntlet of like 6 dudes to get to their table. Like, excuse me, I just want over here and get a bottle of this tequila.
Yeah.
And each dude is trying to hit on them
like,
all the time.
Each guy's shooting his shot the whole way in. It's like you reached the 8th level.
Right. And then you get to the leader. He's standing on top of the
Yup.
sofa with the bottle.
With the bottle.
Oh,
But this is why every cocktail waitress tries to be like, hey guys, you should buy champagne. Buy champagne because then champagne will bring girls.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's, I don't know. I think that there will be a huge shift in nightlife. I think right now everybody is like, cooped up for a year. People made money, didn't spend money, so they're spending their vacation money, other stuff, and they're spending and doing that. But the sustainability of table men's being, $5,000 for these mega clubs, especially in larger towns, at a certain point, you're going to run thin on just clients. Like, on a big weekend in Vegas right now, there's 5,000 like tables, and the cheapest one is $5,000. Like how long is that going to last, man? So you got to find, 5,000 people every single weekend from around the country that feel comfortable spending that kind of money.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that happening, the decline in like when I got injured in 2016. Yeah. It was so hard to sell a table, man.
Yeah. Like the table men's going, like people weren't going to spend 10K anymore. Like so they had to do no men's, or they had to drop the men's down to like 2,500, and it cannibalized a lot of like the other clubs.
Yeah.
Like, even in Vegas right now, all of these day clubs that are opening, you got to find people that are willing to spend $10,000 a day because they're going to go out at night. So they got to be willing to spend $5,000 at your day club, and then another $5,000 a night. That's just the minimum. Like that's a big number, man.
Crazy.
I think nightlife got its extra little bit of pulse because, like you said, everybody's got a ton of money. Nobody's been out. But I give it 5-6 months, and this whole thing is, and we go back to this whole concept of nightlife dying out, going back to the lounge bar. I mean, we hate going to fucking nightclubs now. It's awful. It's the worst thing.
No, I think, and it's also too, like I'm saying this, I'm older, so I can't do it like I used to. But I think the next generation of kid, they don't like it either. They're not like ragers like and partiers. They'll go to festivals, or they just go to house parties and chill and play video games. They don't like there even now you go to like a lot of clubs and you look around, everyone buying tables is my age and like old. Like that young crowd is like they just don't go out like that.
Yeah, they go into craft cocktail bars and cool lounges.
Any place you can make a TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
Any place you can make a TikTok is where people want to be at now, so they can kind of show off.
Nobody's taking pictures of the bottles. They're taking pictures of like their ginger syrup snafu that they got. That's smoking and shit.
You don't have all the promoters that we know that take pictures like another wild night with all the bottles they didn't pay for. It's like take your sponsor, bro.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It is, man. I think the whole country is kind of in a weird spot because so many people. I think people also have the fear that things are going to get shut down again. So people are like, "Let me get it in while I can. Like, let me go out here and like kick it." Because like everything in Vegas is having like banner numbers. Miami like banner numbers. Like, but at what point,
it's not sustainable.
Not sustainable. The same 6 guys like every single night like them kill themselves.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I'm sure Nick and I have been wondering how you guys met and how this this duo was formed.
Oh, our little
and maybe a crazy story because I gotta use the bathroom, but I don't want to miss nothing.
Yo, it's funny. Somebody made this comment to us one time when we were out, and we rolled with it. It was like, you two are like Pinky in the Brain. Because literally, because like we'll go out, and I'll be like, all right, we're going here, and here. He's like, whatever Mikey says, let's just fucking roll. But there was, the first, like, we've known each other for like years just in passing. But then we were somewhere and we ended up bouncing to a couple spots. We go to do karaoke, and I didn't know this man loved country music as much as he does. And I love country music. So we're at this karaoke spot in K-Town. It's like 2 a.m. It's me, him, and like, it was like 6 or 7 girls with us. Yeah. And we're playing shit. And all of a sudden we get to country and we start singing. He's like, you like country? I'm like, yeah. Nobody else got the mic for the next like 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yes.
And we just write it down. And then ever since then, we've been friends. Like I said, we'll go places and we go bars, and we have a very similar taste in kind of how everything goes. Like, yeah.
It's like one of my new best friends. Like, everybody has moved away. We had to form this new crew of friends, and it's like me, him, and Dylan from the Belmont every weekend. Anywhere. We go to Saddle Ranch because that's his favorite spot.
And then we end up at Belmont.
Yep. Yes. This is our weekly routine.
I miss those bars that would do like the country nights.
See, that's what me and him have been saying.
Yeah,
like,
we were trying to look
that
for
place
it.
on Sunset. It was
there has to be
Happy Endings.
Happy Endings used to do
Endings.
their country night, man. I used to love that country night at Happy Endings.
And it was such a blast to do those country nights because it's like a whole different aspect. In LA, you don't really see as much of that.
Right.
So it's a whole different ballgame.
I mean, they're missing out with Stagecoach. Like, people love that stuff. There's such a market.
Jared, I can't wait until we go to Stagecoach next year.
I'm going with y'all with that.
Oh, you gotta come with us. It's gonna be a shit show.
100%. I'm gonna give away all my secrets, but Stagecoach, just buy like a regular like GA band, and I end up on stage and just walk around every single time. Because I wear like my regular clothes, so it's not that big of a deal. But like cowboy hat and all that, and I'll be going through security like to the artist area on stage, and they're like, "Something like I'm one of the artists." I just keep right on walking because they wouldn't dare question a black guy at a country thing. They're like, just let him go. Either he's crazy or just let him go.
He's a new age country. Yeah, let him through.
Man.
This seems like a nice place to take a break.
Yo, brother, we appreciate you being on, but let's get you out of here the same way we finish every episode. What's one of your favorite nightlife stories? Because one of the ones you told me about you at Encore with the beers is great, but I know you got a lot of crazy ones.
My favorite thing that I used to do, man, was when they started minimums and they started messing with people, I would refuse to buy champagne just because the racket that it is. So I would buy like 200 beers or like 300 beers, and I would give it to the whole GA. So like they would come out with like buckets and like sparklers of beers, and I would walk out in the crowd and just hand the beers to like all of GA.
Yes.
And I mean, it would be so funny because they would like, I could have the whole crowd like cheering, everybody be drinking. It was awesome. It was like, I did it for a long time, but that was like the thing because they'd be like, oh, I just get champagne. I'm like, I want 300 beers. And they're like, really? And the waitress would be so pissed. I'm like, yep, bring them out. Give me my beers.
I love that, man. That just like, it goes to show you that, you don't have to conform to like the night. Like, just be yourself. That was you being yourself.
Yeah.
You wanted, and I like that you like thought about everybody else. You know, I
also felt so bad like when the dance floors got like crowded and stuff like that. I felt so bad because I would like watch some of these guys that would like get there at 9 o'clock and like get to GA and like smash themselves in and be dancing, and I would like see their girlfriend like want a drink. and then he would like go to the bar and be gone for like 20 minutes. I'm like, that's a hard life, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Straight up, man. Like,
Yeah.
you get there at 9 o'clock, you've been on your feet this whole time dancing, and then your girl wants a drink. You go wait in line for 20 minutes for a $25 vodka tonic that you spill half on you on the way back, and then like she slurps it down, and you're like, that was great. So.
Oh man, yo Jay, we appreciate you being on, man. He's one of the most genuine dudes. Love fucking hanging out with him. He's the man.
I love his energy, man.
It's great.
Like,
That's why we have a blast every time we go out.
so nice meeting you. Thank you for coming on and taking time with us. I appreciate the stories.
Always. Yo, see you guys next time on the Chaos. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Chaos Control, hosted by Mikey Tableman and Danny J. Gomez, producer and audio engineer Nick Dewar. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join us next week for more Chaos.